What's up, metal and heavy music fans? Today we are ranking the albums of Trivium. You're gonna hate it. But yeah, let's dive right into it, shall we? With 2003's Ember to Inferno. Matt was only 17 when this was recorded, so it's definitely pretty raw, but admirable at the same time. I'll just get it out of the way right now, but I've always been pretty nonplussed about the vocals of this band, but they're especially grating on this album. The songwriting's pretty generic, sounds like kind of every other 2000s metalcore band, but without any real personality. Definitely some allusions to their potential here, but overall pretty forgettable. I'm going to put this one at D tier. But then we have Ascendancy in 2005, and this is the album that I discovered the band with. I actually found a CD sampler, I believe it was a Headbangers Ball 2 one in my dorm, and it had like Light for the Flies on it. That is still a banger track, probably one of my favorite tracks of theirs, period. Definitely stepped up the production on this one as well, right down to the almost Dimmu Borgir-esque intro with the piano and chorals. The vocals definitely still bother me on this one, but some combination of kind of nostalgia with just the generally enjoyable riffage makes up for it to an extent. Objectively, still not a really great album, and on re-listen, it doesn't really hold up that well. I'm gonna put it at B tier. Then we have the Crusade in 2006, and I hear them shifting away here from the metalcore sound towards more of a kind of thrash and groove metal direction with kind of cleaner vocals, more of just sort of like it's like a James Hetfield kind of sound, like early Metallica James Hetfield, but unfortunately without the handle on how to use it effectively. Like James knew how to take that sound and like write it into really catchy kind of vocal moments. Like there's no obey your master moments on here. There's none of that. He just kind of like keeps hitting the same note over and over again on tracks like Ignition. Apparently people liked it though because it hit number 25 on Billboard, but me personally, this will probably maybe be a very hot take, but I find this to be almost unlistenable. It's at D tier for me. I'd even put it below the debut. All right, then we have Shogun in 2008, focusing on kind of longer songs here and also 7-string guitars. And overall, I'd say it's a big improvement from the last one. The compositions are more interesting and at times even kind of go into that sort of Master of Puppets territory. The vocals are also far less irritating and there's some attempt at variation, but it's still the weakest part of the album overall. The singing on tracks like Throes of Perdition is just pure pain to me. Although I will say that because the songs are longer, we get a lot more instrumental moments and those are easily like the standout parts for me, and I can see why this is a fan favorite for some, and ultimately I'm gonna give it an A. Then we have In Waves in 2011, and another cool intro on this one, kind of a Linkin Park vibe with the piano there. This felt more like a return to the vocal style of the previous albums, except done much better, like leaps and bounds better. I was actually overall impressed with just how good Matt sounds on this album. The title track is all around solid and pretty catchy too. I would still argue that the songwriting isn't anything particularly special, but it comes together nicely. I dig the groove of Black. Caustic Are the Ties That Bind has that Kill Switch Engage energy. Built to Fail has more of an Avenged Sevenfold vibe. Definitely one of their better albums, but still room for improvement. I'm gonna also put this one at A, and just a little bit higher than Shogun. All right, Vengeance Falls, 2013. This album was actually produced by David Draymond of Disturbed, which I guess was kind of a point of contention among fans. I don't know. But this album, it's just kind of boring, if you ask me. We're back to focusing on more of those kind of Hetfield vocals, and again, they have no sense of hooks or real melody to them. It's like listening to paint dry. Forget watching paint dry. And unfortunately, the instrumentation feels like a step back overall on this one as well. Just a lot of static with a few standout moments. Strife makes for a decent single, I suppose, but even that doesn't do a whole lot for me. I will say this, at least it doesn't annoy me. So for that reason, I'm going to put this one at C tier. Silence in the Snow, 2015. So this was a controversial album, even for fans, because there are zero harsh vocals on it, for the most part. I guess that was at least in part due to Matt having like a vocal injury. So no longer going for the Hetfield sound or M Shadows either. This sees Matt kind of stepping into more of like a power metal style. And you know what? I think it sounds great. I think that this style is genuinely the best that Matt has sounded up to this point, and that's coming from somebody who isn't a big fan of power metal and tends to prefer harsh vocals. But yeah, the title track, really solid. Blind Leading the Blind is fun. Dead and Gone has got some nice chonky riffs and bass rumble to it. It's easily one of their most consistent albums to date in terms of just enjoying it all the way through. I do feel that the production could use a little bit more edge to it. It's a little bit glossy, but probably another hot take here. I'm going to put this one at S tier. Now, mind you, again, that's within the realm of their own discography. It can be corny at times, but I enjoyed the music, and I just think that objectively, it's a bit stronger. All right, The Sin and the Sentence, 2017. And The Screaming is back, but alongside the improved style of singing from that other album. Makes for a solid combo, and once again, the instrumentation very strong on this album. I really like the gang vocals on Beyond Oblivion, which is just an all-around well-orchestrated song. Getting again some Avenged Sevenfold vibes with this one, plus that main riff is super heavy. The Wretchedness Inside got more of that bass clank and groove for me. It kind of takes everything the last album did and does it even better. Even the kind of butt-rocky Breaking Benjamin style cuts like The Heart from Your Hate are pretty enjoyable. So yeah, just in terms of everything coming together, I would also put this one at S tier. And again, to be clear, this is not an album that I would give like an A+ to in a standalone review. It's just in terms of ranking these and differentiating, like, you know, quality levels, I still think that objectively there's just a lot of good things happening here. Then we have What Dead Men Say in 2020, and this album feels a lot like the previous one, but then adding back in more of the metalcore screams, but for whatever reason, I just didn't find myself as engaged. Performances are strong, but the writing didn't really grip me. There are some good moments. I think Bleed Into Me is a pretty sick one with the Tool-esque bass part. The Defiant also has a great kind of It Dies Today harmonized riff, but overall, I'd say it's very forgettable. I'm going to put this one at C tier. And then finally, 2021, we've got In the Court of the Dragon, and overall, this is a pretty solid album from a songwriting standpoint. There are a lot of really great performances, especially instrumentally here. I really enjoy the title track, Feast of Fire, and A Crisis of Revelation in particular. But once again, the lack of variety in the vocals and often uninteresting singing pulls it down a lot for me. It kind of feels like Matt really fell back into some old bad habits from previous albums, and that just kind of took away from the better parts that are going on here. It's like if you combine the vocals of the last few albums with this instrumentation, then it could have easily been top tier. But yeah, you can hear my full extended thoughts on this one with the full album review I did, but all said and done, I would put this at B tier. Again, within the context of their own discography. So yeah, those are my Trivium rankings. I'm sure I've made a lot of Trivium fans super angry and they're down in the comments already, but let me know, like, how would you rank them differently? I'm totally cool with having that conversation. Don't just be a dick, right? And then stick around, I got a full playlist of these tier lists that you can check out, but that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.